She changed her locks. She installed security cameras. She bought pepper spray because she knew he was dangerous. She knew he wasn't finished with her, and in the weeks leading up to her murder, she told her closest friends she was scared for her life. But none of it was enough to stop the monster who had been obsessing over her for nearly a decade. The man she once loved had been waiting for the perfect moment, watching, lurking, planning. And on Valentine's Day 2020, he finally struck. This is the chilling story of Amie Harwick, the Hollywood therapist whose warnings were ignored and whose life was taken by the man who refused to let her go. Welcome back to Chilling Fireside Stories, where I tell true crime stories with the utmost care and respect for the victims and bearable for my community. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It truly helps me continue bringing these important stories to you. These cases deserve to be remembered. Now, settle in and let's begin. Born on May 20th, 1981, in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, Amie spent her early months in foster care before being adopted by her parents Penny and Tom Harwick. She grew up in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, alongside her little brother Christopher, who was adopted when Amie was 4. Music was Amie's first love. She and Chris spent nights at heavy metal concerts, even pulling their parents into the mosh pit of their favorite bands. Amie was bright, ambitious, and unapologetically unique. She hustled early, juggling retail and food service jobs while paving her path toward a career in psychology. Straight out of high school, she met Tommy Decker, a musician in a heavy metal band. That's when she decided to join him in California. It was a bold move, over 3,000 miles away from home. Shortly after settling in California, she and Tommy took the next step, tying the knot and starting a new chapter together. Yet, Amie had a deep devotion to family and friends, and even from across the country, she made it a priority to stay close. Meanwhile, her brother Chris had joined the armed forces, later marrying his wife Carrie and starting a family. No matter how busy life got, Amie called Chris regularly, even while he was deployed overseas. However, her marriage ended in divorce. They just grew apart, but Amie found another love, California, where she thrived. She fell in love with the fast-paced, electric energy of Hollywood, where creativity was everywhere. By 2001, she was studying psychology at Cal Poly Pomona, later earning her master's degree from Pepperdine University. It wasn't easy, but Amie made it happen, funding her education entirely on her own. Alongside her studies, Amie prioritized fitness, especially kickboxing and dance, using exercise as her ultimate stress relief. By 2002, she launched a personal training business, teaching Pilates for over a decade, even producing her own workout DVD, Fit to Rock. She appeared in music videos, worked as a bartender, go-go dancer, and even a stilt-walking clown. She was invited to Hollywood's biggest parties, earning a reputation as a fire eater, a natural performer, unafraid to stand out. She modeled under the name Amie Nicole, working for various brands. Then, she fell in love again. At 28 years old, Amie met Gareth, a 6'4" software engineer, a stand-up comedian, a man who saw her as his muse. But something wasn't right. Gareth's admiration slowly became control. Over time, Amie realized he was a barrier to her dreams, subtly restricting her growth. Their relationship teetered between love and suffocation, an exhausting cycle of breakups and reconciliations. By 2011, Amie had had enough. Walking away changed everything. That year, she was hacked, her personal emails breached, sensitive images leaked to her workplace, costing her a job she deeply valued. The betrayal was terrifying, an attack on her privacy, a warning that someone wanted to hurt her. But Amie didn't back down. She graduated with her master's in psychology, determined to help survivors of toxic relationships reclaim their voices. Her experiences had shaped her path. And what came next would define her legacy. Her interest in relationships and trauma recovery led her to pursue a PhD in human sexuality, where she focused on helping people build healthier connections, set boundaries, and heal from the scars of toxic relationships. She became a licensed marriage and family therapist, opening her own private practice and working with clients from every walk of life. But Amie had a special focus, treating individuals struggling with bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and trauma related to toxic relationships. Her mission was clear: to provide judgment-free, empathetic support, whether helping someone recover from a painful breakup or working with individuals facing deep-rooted trauma. Amie quickly rose to prominence in the field. She collaborated with experts like Dr. Hernando Chavez, became a published author, and in 2014 released her first book, A Bold, Unapologetic Guide to Self-Awareness and Intimacy. She wasn't afraid to talk about topics people avoided, and her writing encouraged healthy relationships, communication, and self-care. Her reach extended to TV, podcasts, and YouTube, where she educated audiences on coping with fear, surviving breakups, and navigating toxic relationships. In 2017, love found her again. At a Hollywood party, she met Drew Carey, the beloved actor and comedian known for The Price is Right. Their first date? Disneyland, and Amie didn't go alone. Drew told her to bring her friends, so she showed up with 10 of them. The two fell fast and deeply in love. They got engaged and in 2018 debuted their relationship on The Price is Right, walking arm in arm onto the stage. Amie was happy, but love in the spotlight came with a price. As their romance became public, the relentless online attacks escalated. She feared the exposure could jeopardize her work, but she and Drew tried to fight through it, even attending therapy together. Yet, by the end of 2018, it was over. The breakup was painful, but Amie was resilient. She had built a career, a legacy, and a life dedicated to helping others. But lurking in the shadows was a danger she never saw coming. By 2020, Amie Harwick had built a life she loved. At 38 years old, she was happily single, thriving in her career, and living in a beautiful Tudor-style home in the Hollywood Hills, a place as majestic as the city itself, nestled near the iconic Hollywood sign. Amie shared the space with her roommate Michael Herman, who lived on the first floor. He was previously the roommate of her longtime friend photographer Robert Cousin, and his presence made Amie feel safe. At the end of January 2020, Amie and her brother, Christopher, reconnected over Facebook messages. Chris had spent the past year deployed in Afghanistan, set to return home in early February. She kept their conversation light, avoiding negativity, instead sending him photos of the love of her life, her cat, Marquis, a snowshoe Siamese she adopted as an emotional support animal. Marquis wasn't just a pet. He was her companion, her source of comfort, the muse for a dedicated Instagram page filled with carefully curated photo shoots. Chris didn't know it would be the last conversation he'd ever have with his sister. It was February 14th, 2020, Valentine's Day. Amie started her morning with a sunrise hike through the Hollywood Hills, joined by her close friend Cleopatra. She threw on a red cardigan, embracing the spirit of the day before stopping at Beechwood Cafe for breakfast. She was happy, successful, exactly where she was meant to be in life. That evening, Amie joined her friends for a Galentine's Day celebration, supporting their friend Tosh Sherman's burlesque performance at the Globe Theater on Broadway. Later that night, they ended the night at the Nomad, a high-end restaurant. Amie ordered tea, a simple way to end a beautiful evening. They said their goodbyes, and Amie drove home. She pulled into her driveway at 1 a.m., parked in the garage, and sat in her car, texting her friend, asking for photos from the night. At 1:02 she wrote, "Send me the pictures of the green couch." Sarah replied at 2 o'clock. Amie never answered. She had probably just gone to bed, Sarah thought. But at 1:14 a.m., just 12 minutes after Amie sent her final text, 911 received a frantic call. It was Michael Herman. Michael heard the scream first, sharp, gut-wrenching, unmistakable.
I want to reduce the upper to 434.
Yeah, somebody just attacked my roommate. We're at 2086 Mound Street. Find anything.
Okay, how was he assaulted? What happened?
It's a C. I don't know. I was downstairs. I heard screaming. Please get a cop here.
Okay, and this is who's screaming inside?
Can't think right now. Amie Harwick.
I mean, who is she to you, sir?
She's my roommate.
Okay. Is she screaming for help?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see anything?
No.
Okay, so
No,
what
I
did you hear?
heard her screaming, and I heard her being...
All right, so I'm going to send out that somebody's screaming, okay? Since you didn't see anything. You don't know if she's being attacked, you're not sure.
Yes, I know she's being attacked. I heard her got thrown to the ground.
His roommate, Amie Harwick, was being attacked upstairs. He didn't see the attacker, but he heard it happening, the struggle, the sounds of violence. Yet, time dragged on, precious minutes slipping away. Michael was furious, his frustration boiling over as he tried to make them understand the urgency. The operator kept collecting information, asking for names, addresses, phone numbers. Every second felt like an eternity. 5 minutes passed. No police. Michael called again, pleading, demanding for help as the screams from upstairs had faded.
911 emergency, operator 609.
Yeah, I wonder why it's taking the cops so long to get here.
Can you provide me the address so I can look it up?
2086 Mound Street.
Has something changed since you originally called?
What now? What?
Has anything changed since you originally called?
Yes, she's not answering. Like, I'm outside her fucking window yelling. Nobody's answering. You guys need to get a cop here, quick.
The officers were on their way, but lost in the winding Hollywood Hills, delaying their arrival by precious minutes. By the time they pulled up, Michael stood in the driveway, his white shirt stained with blood, from his stomach, his arm, his hand. The officers hesitated. Michael kept repeating the same demand. Just jump the fence. Because that was the only way back into the house. But there was confusion. Michael was locked out, blood staining his shirt, frantic in his desperation. The officers weren't sure what to believe. He was claiming to be Amie's roommate, yet he had no key to his own home. And inside that house, Amie was fighting for her life. Finally, after too much back and forth, the officers hopped the fence. They landed in the backyard, Michael right behind them. Then they saw her. A woman collapsed on the concrete beneath the third-floor balcony. It was Amie Harwick. Michael lost it, his panic erupting into screams, calling her name, over and over again. The officers tried to control the scene, but Michael couldn't stop shaking, couldn't stop staring at what was in front of him. Amie's body lay still, her head tucked beneath her shoulder. She had visible injuries to her neck, and yet she was still alive. The officers called for an ambulance, but didn't dare move her, afraid of a potential spinal injury. From what they could tell, she was experiencing a seizure. Michael was losing control and still in shock, so they pulled him back into the house, sitting him in his bedroom while they tried to piece together what had happened. Meanwhile, the officers searched the home, but there was no attacker inside. The only sound was the television still playing, a reminder that just hours ago, this had been a normal night. Then, they found something disturbing, a syringe full of amber liquid on Amie's bedroom balcony. Officers jumped to the first assumption, a substance. Did Amie come home intoxicated and fall? Or was Michael involved? The officers looked at him again. The blood, the locked door, the panicked behavior. It all seemed odd. The EMTs arrived, rushing Amie to Cedars Sinai Medical Center. Meanwhile, officers returned to Michael's bedroom, still searching for answers. By now, Michael had found his phone, wallet, and keys, providing his driver's license, finally proving his identity. His room was cluttered, his words frazzled, likely from shock. He explained that he had been working overtime for weeks, finally getting Valentine's Day off, only to drift in and out of sleep all day. He had no idea when Amie got home. No idea when she left the house earlier that night. Then came the question that mattered most. Does Amie own syringes? And Michael immediately rejected the idea, saying, she doesn't take anything that would need a needle. If Amie was sober, then the loaded syringe. Was it planted? Was it brought there by someone else? The officers took a closer look at Michael's injuries. They matched his story. Marks from jumping the fence, cuts from scaling the gate. But Amie's injuries told a different story. Michael hadn't fought with her. That much was clear. Then, Michael revealed his thought process in those terrifying moments. The second he heard Amie screaming, his plan was simple. Call 911, put the phone on speaker, walk upstairs, and confront her attacker. Tell them the cops were on their way. But he never got that chance. Instead of rushing upstairs, he sprinted into the night, knowing that if both he and Amie died, there would be no one left to tell the story. But was Michael's story the truth? The detective wasn't sure. As he swept through the house again, the clues began stacking up, clues that pointed to something far more sinister than a tragic accident. The kitchen door leading outside was wide open. In Amie's TV room, curtain rods lay scattered across a table, as if someone had torn through the space in a rush. Her bedroom was a wreck, her purse, books, and phone discarded near the bed. The sheets were crumpled, her drawers left open. Amie was someone who always made her bed. She didn't leave her home like this. A deeper search revealed even more unsettling evidence. A Nest security system alert, time-stamped 1:11 a.m., moments after Michael fled for help. Her balcony door, bathroom door, closet, everything left ajar. Then, the officers found blood, not just on the balcony door but in the hallway outside her bathroom. Near the bathroom floor, a strange substance, possibly urine. Was it from Amie's cat? Or something else entirely? Whatever the answer, one thing was clear: the scene was wrong. And then another discovery. Amie's black jacket, flipped inside out, lay abandoned. Dark beads were scattered across the floor, broken pieces of her cross necklace trailing through the hallway, past the bathroom, into her bedroom, and ending on the balcony. It was as if she had been dragged, or carried, across her suite. The rest of her rosary necklace lay outside, beside her body, all but one charm missing, its beads lost in the struggle. Meanwhile, Amie was fighting for her life in the hospital, alone. She didn't survive. In the quiet moments of 3:26 that morning, Amie Harwick passed away, her family unable to be there in time. Her death, now a homicide investigation. Detectives took over the case, arriving at her home just before sunrise. A full sweep in daylight exposed even more chilling evidence. On the stone patio, where Amie's body had been found, her hair scrunchy, a charm necklace, articles of clothing, and the boots she never had the chance to remove before the attack. She had just gotten home. The attack came within minutes. Near the planters and greenery, the detective spotted a statue of a deity, its arms extending outward in a symbolic pose. It was damaged, one of its arms missing. The shattered French doors bore the evidence, blood smeared on the broken panels, a silent witness to the struggle that unfolded within. Swabbed for DNA evidence. The intruder had reached inside, unlocking the door, cutting themselves in the process. Another blood stain on the wooden floor, right at the entry point. At that moment, Michael was taken to the station for questioning, recounting the same timeline. To investigators, his story felt far-fetched. The investigators had one urgent question. Do you know anyone who would want to hurt her? Michael hesitated, but then admitted there was one person. An ex-boyfriend. Someone Amie had filed a restraining order against, but the order had expired. Michael didn't know the name, but he told detectives that Robert Cousin, a well-known photographer and one of Amie's closest friends, might. Michael called Robert, and he rushed to the Hollywood police station. Meanwhile, investigators canvassed the neighborhood, gathering witness statements. One neighbor reported seeing someone enter Amie's home, but long before 1 a.m., meaning it wasn't Michael. Detectives searched Amie's phone, combing through her recent messages. One exchange stood out, a conversation with her ex, Drew Carey, just the day before. On February 13, 2020, Amie had reached out asking to talk. Drew responded instantly, "Yes, I love you." Even though they hadn't spoken in months, even though Drew was in a new relationship, the case was widening. Detectives secured search warrants, gaining access to Amie's security footage and the neighbors' cameras. Meanwhile, Robert arrived at the Hollywood police station. His connection to Amie ran deep. They had been friends for 8 years, and she had helped him through his divorce. The last time he saw her was Tuesday, 4 days before the attack. The last time they texted was just hours before her death. The grief was immediate. But Robert wasn't a suspect. He was a friend with answers. And when Detective Masterson asked if Amie had enemies, Robert didn't hesitate. He said, "It must be Gareth Pursehouse, Amie's ex-boyfriend from nearly a decade ago, but someone she had run into by chance at a work event on January 16th. She had called and texted Robert the next day, shaken by the encounter. Even after 9 years, Gareth still seemed fixated on their breakup. Amie was worried, and she made it clear, "If anything happens to me, Gareth is responsible." That same day, she shared her location with Robert, just in case. She even considered buying a gun, but hesitated. Instead, she installed new security cameras in her backyard, trying to protect herself by other means. For years, Amie Harwick had done everything she could to escape Gareth Purse's house. She had filed 2 restraining orders, documented his escalating obsession, and taken every precaution to protect herself. But Gareth never let go. Despite nearly a decade of silence, he reappeared unexpectedly on January 16, 2020, at the XBIZ Awards, where Amie had been invited to speak on a mental health panel. There, her past found her. Amie saw Gareth first, hoping to avoid him. But Gareth had already spotted her, and he wasn't going to let her walk away. He approached directly, emotions boiling over in front of the crowd. Amie, always calculated and composed, guided him toward a bench near the restrooms, positioning herself within sight of security guards. She knew he was angry, unpredictable, unstable, and she was right to fear him. "You ruined my life," Gareth snarled. But then he noticed Amie's friend, Hernando, nearby. Instantly, his demeanor shifted, his tone softened, his posture adjusted, a chilling shift from rage to control. Amie assured Hernando she was fine, and reluctantly, he returned to the red carpet line. But Gareth wasn't done. Later that night, just before the event ended, he returned to Amie's table, asking to speak again. Almost 10 years had passed. What more was left to say? Yet Amie agreed, heading back to the same bench near the restrooms as the venue emptied for the night. Another 50-minute conversation. Finally, Hernando stepped in, insisting it was time to go. As they rushed out, Hernando noticed something unsettling. Amie kept looking over her shoulder, checking to make sure Gareth wasn't following. She didn't speak until she reached her car, locked the doors, and exhaled sharply. She was so shaken, she canceled her next event, and instead, she and Hernando drove to a diner, figuring out her next steps. She understood stalking behavior better than most. She counseled survivors. She knew the risks. Once stalkers re-establish contact, their obsession reignites, which is why she had avoided Gareth at all costs. And now, Amie was about to face the darkest chapter yet. Just hours after their encounter, Gareth found Amie's phone number online and reached out. "If I'm allowed to text." "Allowed?" Amie, caught off guard, accidentally sent a jumbled response. Random letters. Nothing intentional. Gareth took it as an opening, keeping the conversation alive. Amie quickly realized what was happening, apologized for the accidental text, and explained she was on a call. But Gareth kept pushing. "But if we can meet again," Amie set a firm boundary, making it clear their conversation was over. "I think it was good that we spoke last night, but that was enough for both of us. I hope you heard me when I said I was sorry for any suffering, and I forgive you for what you did to me. Right now, it's best to have space. It's time to move forward." Gareth didn't take it well. "So you're still just gone?" "That's exactly my nightmare." Amie didn't reply. Gareth texted at 2 p.m., then 6:45 p.m. She ignored both. By Sunday morning, he called and left a voicemail, his voice shaky, pleading, asking her to meet one more time. Amie blocked him completely, knowing that engaging would only escalate the situation. But Gareth's obsession wasn't fading. Everything started almost 10 years ago, when Amie Harwick and Gareth Pursehouse were in a relationship. At first, Gareth showered her with affection, convincing her that their connection was special, unbreakable. But soon his behavior shifted. He isolated her, dismissing her concerns, blaming her for his anger. The emotional manipulation escalated into intimidation, and when Amie tried to leave, he tightened his grip. In June 2011, his rage spiraled. During an argument on the freeway, he forced her out of his moving car, leaving her stranded. Terrified, Amie filed her first restraining order. She documented the abuse, but when the case went to court, she was too afraid to testify, and the charges were dropped. Gareth took this as permission to push further. Between 2011 and 2012, Amie contacted the police multiple times, reporting his unpredictable outbursts. He smashed 10 picture frames against her apartment door, causing damage to her belongings. He broke into the building multiple times, leaving flowers taped to her door. He stood outside playing music, refusing to let her move on with her life. He then took it even further, sending threatening emails to Amie's friends, making it clear he wouldn't stop. No matter how many times she pleaded for him to leave her alone, Gareth refused to accept it. He wouldn't take no for an answer. Amie testified against him, recounting every moment of fear in court. And finally, on April 12, 2012, the restraining order was granted, forcing Gareth to stay at least 100 yards away from her at all times. But California restraining orders expire. Amie's protection was limited to 3 years, and on April 11, 2015, it ran out. She was no longer legally protected. And Gareth knew it. Detectives now had probable cause to arrest him. At 4:30 p.m. on February 15th, Gareth Pursehouse was arrested in a traffic stop outside his home, charged with first-degree murder, and held on a $2 million bond. Sitting beside him in the passenger seat was Angeline, a woman who had unknowingly spent the afternoon with a man accused of murder. When Gareth arrived at jail, officers immediately noticed something unusual. His body bore multiple injuries. Cuts on his knees, bruises on his face, and even a black eye. At first, he brushed it off, claiming they were from shaving. Then he changed his story, blaming construction work. But the injuries told a much darker truth: a bite mark on his bicep, visible signs of a struggle. All of it pointed to one undeniable fact: Amie had fought back. Later that evening, Detective Dave Vinton obtained a search warrant, uncovering key evidence that pointed directly to Gareth Pursehouse. Among his belongings were black and white tennis shoes, black shorts with white stripes, and tan and black husky gloves. But the most unsettling discovery was in the kitchen. On a shelf, investigators found an XL brand syringe, coated with yellow residue, as if it had once held liquid, then emptied. It was an identical match to the syringe found at the crime scene. Meanwhile, Michael's memory provided another chilling detail. On February 14th, he awoke to the sound of glass shattering but assumed Amie had returned home and was cleaning up. Footsteps moved through the house, but nothing seemed unusual, so he drifted back to sleep. However, Nest security footage later revealed the truth. The noise was Gareth breaking in at 8:53 p.m., damaging the French doors in a silent invasion. Forensic analysis confirmed Amie's blood on the patio and balcony, but inside the house, on the front door and living room, it was Gareth's. Fingernail clippings showed she had fought back, scratching him in a desperate struggle. With another warrant for Gareth's phone, detectives discovered his suspicious behavior on Valentine's Day. He had texted multiple women, claiming he was too busy to meet up, but by Saturday his tone shifted, suddenly free to make plans. Deleted texts and call logs suggested he was actively covering his tracks. But the biggest break came on February 16th, when investigators reviewed security footage from Amie's neighbor's cameras. At 8:52 p.m., motion sensors triggered. A figure moved through the empty lot behind her home. A white male, dressed in black, reached up and covered the camera with a gloved hand, the same gloves found in Gareth's living room. For 30 seconds, the intruder tampered with the system, forcing it to reset and cut off the recording. And then at 8:53, he did it again to another camera. This meant one terrifying truth: he was inside, lying in wait for hours. From 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., the intruder remained undetected, biding his time. Then, just after 1 a.m., the same figure emerged again, caught once more by security footage. No hat this time, but the same bag, same outfit, same distinct hairstyle. At 1:11 a.m., another man appeared on camera. Michael, Amie's roommate, breathing hard, knocking on doors, pleading for someone to answer. No response. This footage exonerated Michael completely, proving his account aligned with the timeline. Meanwhile, Amie's autopsy confirmed what investigators already suspected. Her manner of death was ruled a homicide. She had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, sustained from a fall off her balcony. Multiple fractures, including a shattered pelvis, alongside injuries to her torso, shoulders, arms, and elbows, all pointed to extreme violence. Defensive wounds marked her fingers and hands, evidence that she had fought back, desperately trying to survive. Further examination revealed broken blood vessels around her eyes, consistent with strangulation. This suggested that by the time Amie fell, she was likely already unconscious. And even more chilling, it wasn't an accident. She had been pushed. Deliberately. With intent. A toxicology report confirmed there were no substance or alcohol in Amie's system, ruling out any attempt to frame the scene as an accident. Also, the content of the syringe found at Gareth's house was an identical match to the syringe found at the crime scene. Later, it was revealed to contain 86.9% pure nicotine, a lethal dose capable of killing within minutes. Detectives had no doubt Gareth was at Amie's house that night. And now, Robert Cousin uncovered even more evidence. While sorting through Amie's belongings, Robert discovered a day planner with her account passwords, leading investigators to a chilling email she sent herself on January 17th at 3:09 a.m. The subject line? GP, Gareth Pursehouse initials. Inside, Amie documented her deepest fears. She described Gareth's outburst at the event, his erratic behavior, his obsession, even reciting old messages she had sent him nearly 9 years ago, word for word. It was all there, proof of her escalating fear and the certainty that Gareth posed a danger. Investigators uncovered more evidence. Texts between Amie and her friends detailing her plans to install security cameras, change locks, carry pepper spray. One message to Robert on January 18th stood out. I ran into my scariest ex last night of 10 years. He yelled at me in public, told me how obsessed he was. I tried to de-escalate him. She had seen it coming. She had prepared for it. But Gareth was already waiting for the perfect moment. Justice finally took hold. On February 18th, Gareth was bailed out, posting a $200,000 bond and walking free in less than 24 hours. Amie's friends and family were stunned. One of her ex-boyfriends, musician Dave Navarro, publicly called for Gareth's rearrest, fearing his release put more lives at risk. A breakthrough soon followed. Gareth was found near the airport, violating his bond conditions. Police acted swiftly, securing a new warrant, this time with no bail. Gareth was officially rearrested and charged with first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and special circumstances of lying in wait. With California recently removing the death penalty, Gareth faced life in prison without parole. His trial, delayed due to COVID, finally began on August 29, 2023. Despite overwhelming evidence, he pleaded not guilty. The jury saw the truth, and on September 29, 2023, Gareth was found guilty. In December, he was sentenced to life in prison. And, with that, justice was finally served. Amie's funeral, held on February 27th in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, was a celebration of who she was. She was buried with a beautiful headstone, an open casket, and a cherished photo of her cat, Marquis. Heartbreakingly, her parents later revealed that in late January, Amie had called them to discuss how she wanted her life honored, just in case. She had been that afraid of Gareth, certain he would take her life. And, tragically, she was right. Donations went to Rock to Recovery, a music therapy organization dedicated to helping people heal. Her parents, Tom and Penny, were moved by the overwhelming support. The world had lost a champion for women, but they had lost their daughter. They wanted Amie remembered not just for her tragic death, but for the impact she made in people's lives. And change was coming. Soon after her passing, the hashtag Justice for Amie movement emerged, advocating stronger protections against stalking and domestic violence. A petition called for permanent restraining order options, a nationwide stalker registry, early intervention programs, and mandatory therapy for offenders, measures that could save lives. Amie understood trauma, the cycles of abuse, and the psychology of control. Giving advice and therapy was her profession, and yet, Even with all her knowledge, even with every precaution she took, she was still vulnerable as a victim herself. This tragedy highlights a harsh truth. No amount of awareness or preparation can fully protect someone when the system meant to safeguard them is flawed. What could have saved Amie, and what must save others, is real legal reform, swift police action, and stronger protections for victims of stalking and domestic violence. Restraining orders expire. Stalking behavior escalates. And right now, the burden of proof often falls on the victim, forcing them to confront their abuser repeatedly in court, hoping the system will listen before it's too late. Amie's story is not just one tragic case, it's a call to action. Justice for Amie must be justice for everyone in her situation. Change is long overdue. Thank you for joining me today in remembering Dr. Amie Harwick. Her story is a reminder that awareness alone isn't enough. Real protections, legal action, and systemic change must follow. If this story moved you, consider sharing her legacy, supporting efforts for stronger stalking and domestic violence laws, and keeping conversations about victim safety and justice alive. Her work, her advocacy, and her impact deserve to be remembered. Until next time, stay safe and look after your loved ones.